We are kicking off our first game. Our second game of the night. Our first game we get to see, between Glenunga International and Reynella East. And again, let's keep our eyes on the ban and the question of, are teams doing their homework or are they simply swinging the ban hammer at meta picks? It looks like they are doing a little bit of focus. The Caitlyn, not exactly meta, but damn, she's powerful as she gets going.
Absolutely, as is the Yasuo being banned away. It did look like there was a slight disparity in rank, not necessarily in skill. We'll have yet to see that in terms of the mid lane matchup. So perhaps banning away the Yasuo to make sure that there's not going to be too much of an oppressive lane matchup for that lane, as Rengar is also banned away.
Yeah, little kitty cat will not be on the Summoner's Rift here as another jungler falls to Graves. A little bit unsurprising. Graves is extremely strong. I think the super obnoxious thing I've noticed recently is Graves Yuumi, because Graves is relatively tanky and then Yuumi ensures that he doesn't die. It's super obnoxious. So I love to see that one getting taken away. He does literally everything you need him to do. Final ban is Pike. Again, bit more of a niche pick right now in supports. Typically, you like to see the likes of the Leona, the Nautilus, the Thresh, a bit more of these tankier frontline. And wow, the Master Yi getting slapped around too.
Yeah, they're just taking away all of these super hard carry solo picks, more or less. But unfortunately, Cassidy does get through another hard carry solo pick. And as you were touching on before, with the Yuumi, Yuumi on top of any of those champions that were banned away, whether it be the Yasuo, the Graves, or even the Yi, is absurdly strong. And yes, it's gonna be a Cassidy.
No way. That's confidence. I'll say it that way, because this Cassidy now should not have a laning phase where he's allowed to enjoy himself. You lock in the likes of a Zed, a Talon, hell, even a Yasuo. I don't mind Yasuo's banned, but Zed and a Talon, they should be able to put Cassidy into the dirt and keep him there. So I'm interested to see if that becomes a worthwhile decision or whether they get brutally punished for it. It'll be very interesting to see. Up against them, unsurprising, Ornn set. I presume it's going to be set in the support role and Ornn up at the top lane. They'll be good to go. Very solid picks all round.
Yeah, it's most likely going to be set in the support. I have seen, however, set jungle being popping off more recently. Specifically, set jungle with phase rush and the hex flash contraption with inspiration secondary, as it just provides such a sheer amount of mobility and the ability to just get into the lane to gank, which is what set jungle would normally lack. And just that early power spike of Set being the champion that he is, just able to get anywhere in a short amount of time, as Thresh and Jinx is going to be the bottom lane locked in here for Glenunga International High School.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Thresh Jinx. I think he's one of the best supports to pair up with the likes of the Jinx, unless you're going for a hypercarry Lulu. So that bot lane, in all honesty, should be good to go. If that is a set support, then Thresh should be more than able to keep the Jinx safe. If that is a set jungle, it has to be set support now. Nunu locked in here will be for the jungle role. And now we get to see, obviously, Reynella is hiding their support their AD carry, as well as their mid laner. The bans should be focused on them. It'll be interesting to see what they do choose to take in, because again, they know that's a Cassidy mid more than likely, unless it's like Cassidy top, because I swear to God, if I see Cassidy in jungle, I'm gonna lose it. So what do they have to lock into that is going to be an interesting question.
Impure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, looking at Reynella East College's lineup right now, they have a very beefy and very strong front line. Now all they need to make it complete is a hard-hitting backline carry. It could be like, obviously we want something that can counteract the Cassidy to, shorten its ability to scale super quickly. Something like, that's hard-hitting like the Zed or like the Talon. But at the same time, with a hefty front line like this that's able to potentially maybe even lock down a Cassidy in the later stages of the game,
Yeah, is.
a champion, even just like a Vega or maybe even a Syndra that just can outright delete any select champion that they choose might be worth going for here as well.
Yeah, the removal of the Z is a smart decision here, but there are still so many things that you can deal with. Even if you don't feel comfortable rocking an AD assassin in the middle lane, there are plenty of other champions, so it will be down to see what they have in their back pocket. Ashe locked in. I actually really like the Ashe here. It's adding to the engage of the side that Reynella is running. Reynella should never have an issue starting a fight now that they've got Set, Ornn, as well as Ashe Nunu. Like, they've got all the tools available to them. Please don't do what I think you're about to do.
Is it going to be Kayn top?
No, this will be Kayn jungle, but I don't want Kayn jungle. Never mind, we're getting Kayn jungle.
Yeah, it might very well be Kayn jungle. I mean, we'll be able to tell after this last pick here for the side of Glenunga. Is it going to be Kayn jungle? Is it going to be Kayn top? It's going to be Kayn jungle with Darius locked in. As a former Darius main, I have to say I am not looking forward to how this matchup is going to go for Big Noodle Man, as that is a lot of crowd control on the side of Reynella East College, and he is not going to have a fun time.
Yeah, you're almost going to have to go like Ghost, Flash, Darius. I almost argue Phase Rush at this point may be helpful for him as well.
I almost argue Cleanse over Ghost.
Oh yeah, actually no, I do agree with you on that one. Again, that is going on the assumption that is going to be on top, because we didn't raise the idea it could be on jungle with Set top.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it absolutely could be. I mean, they could also just be looking to swap it because the Darius has been locked in and Set can, to an extent, beat Darius. Darius can still win the matchup fairly easily if he's able to play his cards right. You know, step out of the Haymaker before it's connecting, or even just deny the Haymaker by apprehending Set as he's casting it. Of course, looking at the matchups together, who do you think is gonna? Who do you think's in favor right now?
I am leaning towards Reynella, and I've got a few reasons. The first and foremost is Engage. They've got Engage coming out of all 5 of their members, and I think like it's simply easier to run an Engage composition where you can, well, in this situation, everyone can do a job of starting a fight. So even if you fall behind, you can start the fight and try and claw it back. As well as early game, they should be good to go. Nunu should be able to secure himself the dragons without too many issues. They have they're not going to have the most proactive jungle, but again, assuming I still don't know who the hell their jungler is. I'm very curious who's going to be in that position, but they should be fine in the jungle role early, and it just really worries me to see what Glenunga have drafted. They first blind picked a Cassidy, who it looks like Noodle is playing, and therefore they could have waited. They've locked in a Darius up against a composition that has got nothing but Kite. So Darius has no right to be relevant in teamfights. He's going to be relegated to split push duty all game. And Kayn is arguably half a champion until he gets his transformations, which shouldn't be happening until the 15-minute mark, unless he's, spends half his time in the laning phase. So Glenunga's got a really mixed team where if you get to the late game, you've got Jinx, you've got Cassidy, yes, you'll be fine, but I don't see what's meant to get them to the late game. Because Darius is great until he gets slapped with a Malzahar ulti and an Ashe ulti and then an Ashe slow, and then gets knocked up by Ornn's bounty castle. Like, it just seems like a very mixed composition coming out of Glenunga, where Reynella feels like they've come in and say, okay, we need ways to start fights, we need ways to be proactive around the map, we've drafted that, we should be good to go.
Yeah, it definitely seems like Reynella East College has in terms of draft, a better team composition, because yes, you've got the late game carries on the side of Glenunga there with the Jinx and the Cassidy, but those are single target champions, and they're going up against things like Ornn, Ashe, Malzahar, Set, and Nunu and Willem. All these champions offer some kind of hard-hitting crowd control to lock down these individual champions, nullifying any potential carry given the right circumstance. And if one of them misses, there's 4 more to potentially hit to help lock them down or keep them locked down so they just can't do a single thing.
And if we get to the later stages of the game, you look at the cast and you think, okay, he gets to level 16, he gets his items, he's going to be a massive damage threat. The issue is that Catherine is still going to have to pay the Malzahar tax. He's going to have to either buy a Quicksilver Sash in the early game, which is going to hurt him because Malzahar does not want to spend 1,100 gold on a Quicksilver Sash. He's still going to have one in the late game, because if he tries to jump in and assassinate, for example, Rage's Ash, and then get slapped by Malzahar Ultimate, he just stops existing as a champion. And of all champions, Malzahar does not want to have to spend his 4th or 5th item on a Quicksilver Sash so he can actually be useful in the team fights. Which means he has to be on side lane duty, and he shouldn't be able to shove a Malzahar in, even in the later game, because Malzahar just, rolls his face on the keyboard, presses QWE, the wave gets cleared out, and it's like, okay, cool, come back later. So I like the idea of the Cassidy, but I'm really, really worried that he's just not gonna become that strong of a champ. Like, it's just, even if he gets to be strong, he's gonna struggle.
Absolutely. And as you said, especially if he does not adhere to the Malzahar tax, because if he doesn't, Malzahar ults him, Cassidy's out of the fight for that time period, even probably just dead because of the sheer amount of damage that's going to come on top of that. And then who's the other carry? Jinx. Call of the Forge God by Ornn, or Showstopper by Set. Lock them down, or Ashold. Just lock them down, and now they're out of the fight. Who do they have left? Darius and Kayn.
Yeah.
Against that heavy front line, they're not going to do anything.
Yeah, and what's really alarming, as we come in here, is a distinct lack of teleports coming in from Glenunga. Their top lane is running Ignite, okay, to Darius, fine. Kassadin is running Ignite, which is a little bit perhaps unorthodox. And it pretty much says if we get to the 30-minute mark, Glenunga, I was thinking they could try a cheeky 1-3-1 split push with like Darius bot lane and the Kassadin top lane and try and 1-3-1 them. They can't even do that now because they haven't taken the teleport. So their late game options have become even skewered.
Yeah, absolutely. It just seems like it's a race against the clock for Glenunga here. But at the same time, their clock doesn't start until about 20 minutes in.
Yeah, well, let's find out as the time is ticking for our second game of the day. Glenunga and Reynella East facing each other for our second series. And again, beyond the lack of teleports, everything seems mostly normal. Like, I still can't take Omnistone seriously, but it is the thing to go for with Set nowadays.
Definitely is. Aftershock just isn't okay, Aftershock's fine. It's just it doesn't offer too much in terms of offensive capabilities, and as a set inside of a bot lane, all you're gonna do is you're gonna get hit, and then maybe you walk up and face smack, and then you get Aftershock, and then you just take more damage. Like, that's simply how it works. So at least with Omnistone and with the mobility that you get from casting your summoner spells, and of course I'm assuming he's also running Nimbus Cloak, he's able to get on top of the bot lane a lot easier, especially with the Hex Flash, which he's most definitely running, and create more openings and opportunities for his team.
Well, your prediction game is on point. He is indeed running Hextech Flash as well as the Nimbus Cloak, so you've nailed that one perfectly there, Adge. On that point of the Omnistone, again, it's the flexibility that is offered. The fact that it's not just, oh yeah, I'm just raw tank now. It's the fact that he can do a little bit of everything, which Set can basically do anyway. So we'll see how that rears its head. I'm pretty sure he started with Electrocute. Should be a bit harder for him to proc that one, but we'll see how that rumbles is. So far, slow laning phase, and I'm going to be keeping my eyes on the junglers. Kayn has already been nice and proactive on the map, and it's time to see what else they can pull off.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good idea to keep tabs on what's happening in the top side, as we have Chalky Milk Meth trying to take down Cool Guy with some early trades. You want to be a bit more aggressive on the Darius, as you want to try and just force him out to deny those early items that Ornn can just craft in lane and give himself the advantage over the Darius, especially before any sort of jungle activity reaches the top side.
Yeah. And we'll see. So far, just nothing too surprising coming out of our junglers for now. They are trying to track the Nunu from the side of Glenunga. They're saying, okay, we need to see where this guy's going. We need to ensure he's not being proactive against us. But it seems like they have got to track him and say, okay, he's bot side, Kane, you're coming top side, and that should influence how people play. You now have to raise a question bot lane, and that is, of course, the Jinx as well as the Thresh. Are you guys safe enough to avoid a tower dive? In this situation, they're being pushed in, so they shouldn't fall victim to any sort of cheese like that from the Nunu, unless you want to, like, fully drift into lane, but that feels a little ambitious to me.
Yeah, it definitely does, as for the most part, it seems like all around it's quite evenly matched, except for the top side there. As we did see Cool Guy getting those 5 stacks of hemorrhage on top of him, as that's going to more than likely going to happen in the early stages of the Darius matchup. Looking at the bottom side here for Reynella, Ashe is putting in a decent amount of harass into the bottom side duo here, and with Padajay, is that how it's going to be?
Probably Padajay, yes, close enough for us, I think.
Basically, with the amount of early supremacy, I guess this is a good way of saying it, Set can offer to wherever he is, Ashe can pretty much just harass almost with impunity. Like, yes, if someone comes in from for a gank, they might be able to get something off, but it's still Set.
Yeah, it's still Set. Set's obnoxious, and getting past him, even as a Kane, should be a difficult challenge here. As been a bit of a peaceful early game. Darius still farming up in the top lane, got himself the lead that we expect, but the lead we don't expect, and it's a little alarming to see. Kassadin is up in CS, up against the Malzahar, which shouldn't be happening in the early game, and does maybe, again, I don't like the idea of first picking a Kassadin, but it does at least show the logic behind why they do this, as clearly Big Noodle is very comfortable on the champion.
Yeah, that does definitely seem to be the case. I mean, he is running Doran's shield, so he's able to, regenerate any kind of harass that Pecan Nut is throwing at him, which means he can step forward and reliably take that CS and give himself the lead that he has now acquired. As bottom lane is now pushing in towards Reynella, and we do have a tree branch here coming down towards the river. We'll see if there's some spicy action maybe happening here. Snowball is charging up, as that's going to be Padajay going in onto Ishless, as that's going to be the Snowball eventually connecting. The flash actually forward from both of them actually will deny the Snowball as it connects onto the wall, and that's going to be a nice hook onto Padajay as he's going down. The Haymaker, though, is just barely going to keep him alive unless the Ignite ticks over. No, it will not. The Zap, though, very close. Tree Branch deciding not to try and body block for his support there. While some counter-aggression, very slightly, but ultimately a stalemate there in the bottom side.
Yeah, but a really good place for Masses Kane to be in position for the counter gank there, because that is only reason that became a bit more worthwhile is they did force the flash out of the set. Now, yes, he's got Hex Flash, which is not the biggest thing in the world, but it allowed the full turnaround for the counter gank, where Rage's Ashe is now in a really awkward predicament, where Rage's Ashe wants to recall.
Oh, that's going to be another move coming in, though. Tree Branch with the Snowball on top of them. That's going to be First Blood actually going over to Padajay, and the return gank actually paid off quite well.
Yeah, I mean, you knew he was in the bot side.
Yeah.
So you know that Rage wants to recall. You know Nunu is still in the bot side of the map. You kind of have to expect the follow-through gank. But a lack of maybe respect coming from here from Catalyst as well as Ias. Just not acknowledging the fact that, hey, he can come through the bot lane again. Let's play safe. It's the rule of 10 seconds. After a gank or after a jungler has shown themselves near your lane, play back for 10 seconds. Yes, you'll lose CS. Yes, you may lose pressure, but it'll keep you alive and safe, because most junglers don't hang around longer than 10 seconds.
What would you say is the best lane for learning and understanding the, I guess, formula of ganking? I like the top lane, yeah.
I mean, yes, I'm a top lane main, so I've got a little bit of bias in this one, but junglers always seem to either abuse you in lane or leave you the hell alone in lane. It's always one of the two. And honestly, I think you learn more from being pressured because it teaches you, I'm usually not very mobile in the top lane. I'm usually not paying attention to the rest of my map, which I need to be doing, top laners. And this is the call out. So you need to acknowledge I'm not fast. I am not typically mobile. I am very easily ganked. And if I do get ganked, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to die. So it punishes you, yes, for not paying attention. But once you get down the knack of saying, okay, I need to back away for 5 seconds. I need to play this safe for, the 10 seconds that I know the jungler is waiting for me to step forwards. That's all you need to do in those lanes. And you can actually, absorb jungle pressure and not die as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's good to have just a general rule of thumb as to how you go about just handling your own laning phase in terms of, do I know where the enemy jungler is? Yes or no? If I don't, maybe play a little bit back in the lane. Like, stay within XP range, maybe walk up and get like 1 or 2 CS, but, keep your wits about you.
Yeah, there's this great, I remember a couple of years ago in the pro scene, there was this great thing where a bunch of pros were asked, like, oh yeah, how do you handle the jungler if you don't know where he is? And the answer that always stuck to me is, I just pretend he's in the lane bush right next to me and play like that. So always has to keep you on edge, because some junglers will always be waiting for you to step forwards, and other junglers, like in our game today, are less so. We've seen some fun in the bottom lane, but that's really about it. And honestly, it's a little alarming to see a Kayn, someone who needs to be proactive in order to get his transformation. He just seems to be letting the game play itself out, and that is really worrying to me.
Yeah, it is definitely something that could be problematic. I mean, all things considered, Maso Gurg hasn't really ganked. He's counter-ganked the Nunu in the bottom side, but he hasn't proactively ganked anywhere himself. Like, yes, looking at the current layout of the map, it's a Malzahar in the mid lane. Not the easiest thing to gank. And it's an Ornn that's constantly shoved under tower by the Darius. Again, not the easiest thing to gank. So where can he go? Enemy jungle. Well, that's another tree branch gang, though, in the bottom side, though, as that's going to be Kalos locked up and actually flipped back over from the Dark Passage. Will not have the toll for the booth, as that will be yet another kill going over to the side of Reynella East College, this time going over to Tree Branch, a bit of compensation for its work.
Yeah, making some good pressure on the bottom side is what you need to do. We talked about what happens when Glenunga gets the late game. Jinx is going to be a threat. There's no two ways about it. So keep her down is just as an effective strategy as anything else. So keep her down. Don't let her scale as easily. She's an immobile marksman. Yes, she's got flame chompers, but they're not going to save her if you truly decide you want to kill her. The worry, though, is that while we've seen gank and gank again from Tree Branch on the bottom half of the map, and it's been relatively successful, this mid lane, you have a Malzahar who has a point-and-click crowd control stun that lasts for an obnoxious amount of time. You should, second he is level 6, gank him. Gank him again. Instead, Malzahar is now about 20 CS behind Kassadin, and you've yet to actually utilize what should be a massive pressure point for your team, which is the fact that early game, Kassadin can't clear waves. Hell, even now, Kassadin's wave clear isn't brilliant, yet you're not doing anything with your Malzahar.
Yeah, absolutely. And even then, look, Big Noodle Man has a CS lead over Pecan Nut, and yet nothing's really been done about it. Like we said before, Glenunga is on a ticking clock, and basically that clock is saying eventually you're just not going to be able to kill the front line of Reynella, which means you're not going to be able to get onto the back line and kill them. So you got to do something before that timer reaches 0.
Well, proactivity coming out of the junglers doesn't exactly seem to be the most prevalent thought. As again, Kayn is still off the scoreboard entirely, which is just really alarming for me on that one there. Black Cleaver finally picked up the Darius. It's great. It means top lane should go more in favor here. But again, Reynella, you need to be more proactive. You are letting Kassadin scale, and you have the perfect setup. Hell, you have an Ashe who can come to the mid lane, fire of an ultimate, not the flash you're looking for range. But instead, you're just letting him scale, and if Malzahar is allowed to roam, if Kassadin is allowed to start roaming when Malzahar is simply stuck in the lane, that is the most, backwards lane I've seen in a while, because it should be Malzahar shoves in the lane, Malzahar roams, or Malzahar doesn't shove in the lane, the second Noodle Man walks up, slaps him with the ultimate, Tree Branch comes in, while they're CCing him, Ashe flies in her ultimate from the bot lane, slams it into the Kassadin, who is still crowd controlled, and that's how you kill and shut him down. But instead, it's just more farming, and Noodle Man's happy for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as a Kassadin, who wouldn't be happy with that? As that is actually going to be a very nicely timed Q from the Kassadin there to stop the Malzahar ultimate. As actually there's going to be a gank on top of Chalky Milk, and he will go down eventually to the absolute zero from Tree Branch there, as Panajay is just on top of Catalyst with the Showmaker, breaking him back and breaking his back, as that's going to be Eyeless trying to run for the hills, but this constant slow from Rage will only just barely not take him down.
Yeah, bottom lane fight, really good there from Panajay to flash into the Jinx, make sure that she wasn't able to get away in one piece. Yes, they were only able to grab one kill, but it's still worth it there. I don't know how much I want to address Chalky Milk proxy farming as an 000 Darius at 13 minutes. It's a little bit flexing perhaps there, but he gets punished for it. Yes, Darius is strong in the early game, but he's not singed.
Yeah, I admire the confidence of the proxy with no mobility, as he only has tier 1 boots, not Ghost, only Ignite, which means he's looking for kill pressure, but he's looking for kill pressure in a lane that he's up against an Ornn.
Yeah, that's interesting. As Dragon number, I believe 2 is taken up. I'd say which one for certain. Unfortunately, my UI has decided not to tell me how many dragons have been secured. But with the Rift, yeah, there we go. With Summoner's Rift being consumed by the Ocean Dragon, it is good to go there. And Reynella is in a great position for now. The issue is that, again, and I'll keep reiterating this, Kassadin is alone. You need to deal with him, or you need to end the game before you have to deal with him. The worrying part is the way that Reynella is playing. It's feeling like a very, let's get to late game, let's get to Ocean Soul, and let's grab ourselves the Elder Dragon as well, grab a Baron buff. You're not going to end it before Kassadin comes online, and then you have to deal with an Angry Thresh, but they're dealing with things.
Gank in the bot side, though, as here comes Tree Branch right on top of them. Catalyst is just the seeking site for Rage GG, as that is going to just be the entirety of the bottom side just going down with almost minimal expenditure from the side of Reynella, as that bottom side is going to continue to hard scale. Now, you're talking about how big Noodleman is just going uncontested, and yes, Kassadin will be a major threat that they have to deal with. However, the sheer amount of crowd control available to the side of Reynella is going to give them plenty of opportunities to shut him down if he does become a problem. In addition, it's very unfortunate for Glenunga that they have an Ocean Soul for this tanky lineup of Reynella.
Yeah, well, they've got to get to the Ocean Soul, but if they do grab it, it's a problem. We're talking about problems.
Oh, that's another gank into the bottom side. They are just hammering it home at this point as Catalyst is going to go down yet again. Tree Branch forced to flash away. And that's really a very nice flay backwards under the tower by Islas, taking down Regisi. And here comes the Kassadin to try and clean it up. The cleanup crew coming through. Doubt he's going to catch the set, though. Actually, maybe if he X-flashes like that, that's an interesting remark. But with the Dead Man's Plate, the mobility is just too much, and he will.
Yeah, now, they're leaving the Kassadin alone, but they are hammering this Jinx into the ground. Now, that does work really well, because Jinx, of course, DPS threat. If she's left alone in teamfight, she will tear you apart. I've played enough Jinx to know that myself as well. But the worrying part is that where do they go now? Because you can't keep bullying Jinx in the bottom lane. There needs to be a point where you start taking over the rest of the map. Now, we talked in the early game, Darius really shouldn't have to be too much of a worry for you because you're going to kite him out anyway in the team fights. And in fact, I feel like he's the next target as Ash coming topside.
Yeah, taking over the rest of the map is maybe exactly what they're looking to do, as they are just going to come in on top of this Darius. Chalky Milk, once again, taking a nap, as that is going to be the bottom side, rotating to top lane. I don't believe Rifttail's up for another one. Actually, I don't think it's going to come up at all. So there's not really too much in terms of objectives other than towers here in the top side. But I guess rotating them around to secure towers is a decent thing in general. While Cool Guy is able to farm up in the bottom side, that's going to be Isolus caught out by the snowball. Lockdown Absolute Zero is channeling with no knockups. Oh, it doesn't actually connect onto anyone though, as Padajay is going to look to try and hunt down Kane, but that's going to be PK Nut coming in with the stare to lock him down. Meanwhile, Cool Guy might just find himself a solo kill onto Catalyst. Yes, he will. That is just unfortunate. And that's a very nicely maneuvered snowball coming through. Won't actually connect on anything, but that will be Big Noodleman going down eventually. Padajay, and just back to back to back action non-stop. Please, at midnight, help me.
All right, so Reynella are aware of the threat, and they are simply saying, okay, the solution to the problem is A, we get the bottom lane behind. We're not going to deal with Casting yet. We don't have to. We're going to put Jinx into the dirt. Jinx will now not be useful until arguably 35, 40 minutes, where she has her Runaan's Hurricane, as well as whatever third item she decides to grab. I hope it is actually probably the Storm Racer at this point, or even a Bloodthirster, because Double Zeal is probably not going to save her. Then they're like, okay, we've done bottom lane. Jinx is now not going to be relevant for another 20 minutes. What is our next focus? Let's get Darius behind and let's grab ourselves the gold on the top half of the map. So that's what they just did then. And they were able to get a little bit more. Ash is now 5, 1, and 6. The set is 3, 1, and 6. They have done a great job of accelerating their bottom lane from the side of Reynella. And now this Ash and Set are going to have to pretty much be the heart of the team for the next 20 minutes. Hopefully by that point, Reynella has won the game. If they haven't won the game, they need to be about 10,000 gold ahead, give or take. Then that should give them the leverage they need to force further objectives like a Dragon Soul, for example, as well as future Barons. But they've got to get to that point, and step one is this Dragon.
Absolutely. Securing the Ocean Soul is definitely going to be a good thing in the favor of Reynella there, as it is going to be secured. Ash Arrow will go wide, not able to connect onto anyone to get a follow-up pick, but they are rotating mid. We could see the makings of a fight here. Snowball actually hitting the wall. That was Dragon 3 at 20 minutes. It's 3-13, not looking good in favor of Glenunga, sorry.
Glenunga, their scaling, again, I want to reiterate, their scaling is great, and I don't want to take away from that. But I asked in Champion Select, what is going to make up for the scaling? Scaling's fantastic, but you need something in the early game to be able to leverage pressure, otherwise you simply roll over and die. I thought the answer might have been Darius bullying the top lane, as well as Kane being super proactive. Kane has been basically evil in this game. He's been in a couple counter ganks in the bottom lane. He's been not around the dragons. He's helped out with the Rift Heralds, I believe, to get Darius that Rift Herald. But other than that, he has been playing as if he's not Kane, if that makes any sense to the audience. He still isn't transformed. He's still in basic Kane form 21 minutes into the game, which is a disaster for Glenunga. They need him to be, it doesn't matter at this point whether he's in Rasta or Assassin form, they need something more out of their jungler.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate sight, to say for sure. And Catalyst on the Jinx, you were mentioning how Jinx is going to be a high of a late game threat. Not in its current standing. I mean, he's channeling his inner Liam O'Brien with the dagger, but it's just not going to pay out if he's not able to get some kind of substantial lead here. And it's more or less just once again becoming a hard farm fest in all lanes, with the bottom lanes now occupying the mid lanes. And yeah, in a scaling matchup, Reynella's fine with this.
Yeah, Reynella's like, all right, if you want to sit back and just do nothing for a little bit, we're fine with it. But I raised the other argument, Glenunga, they can't do anything. Thresh can't start a fight because Jinx is going to die straight away, as well as, well, who's meant to carry the team fight? It's not going to be Kayn. It's not going to be Darius because he's going to get kited. And it's certainly not going to be a 0-5 Jinx who doesn't even have a Zeal ready to go as well. Because again, at very minimum, Jinx absolutely needs to have an Infinity Edge as well as the Hurricane. So Jinx can't carry fights. Kassadin still needs his third item in level 16. He's 3 levels away. Kayn is effectively a Teemo at this point, and Darius can't get close because he's going to get kited to hell and back. So Glenunga are in a really awkward situation where, yes, they've got great scaling, but they're going to need to wait to 40 minutes to actually be allowed to play proactively in League of Legends.
Though, actually will only connect onto the Kassadin as there is the makings of a teamfight here. Absolute zero blocking of any kind of passage from anyone. This fight is actually not looking too great in terms of anyone. There's no clear winner just yet, but that tanky front line from Reynella is holding strong. But Chalky Milk with the dunking prophecies coming through as he's going to be able to take everyone down, and with the assistance of his team, Catalyst finally able to get something in his back pocket. What a turnaround of a team fight in favor of Glenunga.
Okay, so I'm eating my words. I talked about how Darius has no right to get onto the backline because it's a Darius up against literally every bit of crowd control in the world. But when you don't manage it, that's the problem. Call of Forge God was popped early. Nunu didn't have a snowball available. I'm 90% certain that the Malzahar didn't drop Nevergrass, the Malzahar ultimate, onto the Darius when Darius was charging forwards. So suddenly, you've got a Darius in the backline. It wasn't hard for him to proc up his hemorrhage passive, and then decided he looked at Rage and said, Rage, you have no flash, you have no ulti, you have no barrier, you're immobile, you're dead, mate. And then just cleaned house. So, Glenunga, if they can get the fight, if they can let the Darius, for example, get access to the backline, yes, he wins the fight. But he shouldn't have been able to. But, clearly that's not the case.
Yeah, absolutely. If, a question, maybe it was, question of positioning, with the terrain, it was like a bit of a segregated fight into the pockets of the corners of the blue buff there. So perhaps not the best choice to fight for Reynella there. Like, obviously, Call of the Forge God, they wanted to hit as many targets as possible. They were clearly aiming at Big Noodle Man, while the rest of the fight was more or less just happening away from Big Noodle Man. And the sustained damage coming out from Chalky Milk, who really just needs to get 5 stacks on Hemorrhage on anyone before he can go for Rage GC and just go onto the backline. It's just, they need to be able to realize it's Reynella need to fight front to back, basically.
Yeah, but look from the backline. Noodle is hiding on the backline here. They found him, though. He's running away. So we've got a pincer here. Pincers are dangerous. If you don't pull a pincer off correctly, you hurt yourself more than you help yourself. Absolutely. And the dragon, honestly, Nunu's team should start the dragon. You've Call of Forge God. You've got Ash's Enchanted Crystal Arrow. You need to be the proactive ones here, or funnel them into the choke point where you are standing. If you can pull them in, you've got a great position because all your ultimate can be used in AoE. The issue is that no one wants to pull the trigger.
Exactly. Look at where Call of the Forge God is coming out onto almost all 3 of them as the Asher will come through, and they're going to try and take down Chalky Milk right away. Big Noodle Man is there coming in through the backline though, but he's not able to do anything as he just CC'd all hell. Catalyst though able to take down Rage GC, and they're just going to chase down the remnants of Glenunga. And that's going to take him down. Catalyst with the help of Isolus, that's a triple kill going in his favor. He's kiting as best he can. He's just a support in the top lane though. Left Reynella as he's going to get hunted down eventually. Actually, Cool Guy may be able to turn this around. He will actually. The Burst Mage Assassin carry on pulls it off once again.
Okay, so the fight started off really, really well for Reynella. They started the engage. They locked down Chalky Milk and made sure that he wasn't able to do anything. At the same time, Noodle wasn't even there for the fight because, of course, he was in the flank. So it took him forever to get to the fight. The issue is that Reynella felt so worried about the Darius, who did a fantastic job last fight, that they forgot that Jinx existed. Now, I talked about how Jinx really wants 3 items to be good to go, but she needs the Hurricane because when she's using Fishbones, the rocket launcher, every auto attack is an AoE. So that means with Hurricane, Jinx gets 3 AoE auto attacks every single time she wails away at you. So the fact that she was able to sit in the back line, able to wail it off because she wasn't focused at the initial part of the engage, meant that Reynella couldn't do anything. And then the Cassidy rocked up. They got really obsessed with Cassidy, so they went to go into a Cassidy was put down. And then Jinx is like, guys, I'm still here, and was able to do enough damage to prevent the dragon from being taken. And in fact, Glenunga were able to pick up the objectives themselves. The scaling has finally started to come through after 2 successful team fights.
Yeah, it absolutely has. Glenunga are not out of this just yet. In fact, Reynella actually surrendering the Ocean Dragon there to them, as it was only Patache and Cool Guy left up. They could have potentially looked to solo it. I mean, they didn't even clear out the vision when they had the chance to, which is questionable, to say the least. Baron, however, at 28 minutes, is now on the table. Either team can potentially look to go for it. And looking at how things are going, Ornn is now level 15, and he's able to give out those upgraded items. Nothing onto Ashe just yet, which is really something that they want to try and get done as soon as possible.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Now, next objective, as you talked about just then, was the Baron buff. Now, Reynella have got to be feeling a little bit nervous because the last 2 team fights haven't exactly gone in their favor. So, the way that they're going to have to do it, I feel like, is less let's start team fights and more we need to be fishing for picks. So, that means don't be afraid, for example, Ashe, to throw out your enchanted crystal arrow, find someone a little bit out of position, and delete them at the start. The worry is that Reynella don't seem confident to throw out, the Ashe ultimate when it's up because they want it for follow-up as opposed for looking for a pick. So I do hope they do lean a bit towards that more that way than anything else, because I feel like that could actually do them really nicely for setting up around a Baron.
Honestly, at this point, I think the best course of action is Ornn always has to ult Jinx. Just always. If Ornn isn't ulting Jinx, she's just going to be able to pretty much sustain, hit them in the backline with impunity because they're too busy fighting the Darius and the Kayn and the Cassidy in the middle of the fight. Yes, Reynella want to fight front to back, but at the same time, they can't allow the Jinx to just be able to hit them like that when they have so much crowd control, especially ranged crowd control, at their disposal, and they're using it at the people within point blank range.
Yeah, and now talking about the Jinx, she's now sitting on 3 items. The Cassidy is now sitting on 3 items and is level 16, so this is really good for them.
Yeah, that's a very nice pick out onto Isolus there, and that could look to be...
Why came outside?
Crystal Arrow, though, was used. Yeah, why is Masoga down there in the bottom side, though? That is a very questionable thing. However, Call of the Forge God and Absolute Zero is still available, as is the Nether Grasp, so they could look to utilize that. They are actually somewhat peeling off the Baron, but they want to just try and complete this as soon as possible. They have the percentage health damage with the Ashe. Here comes Choggy Milk on top of Ashe right away, and he goes down to Big Noodle Man. Call of the Forge God comes down, but that's going to be PK Nut going down almost immediately, and the team just absolutely is not going in favor of Reynella, as it is a almost clean wipe. Other than Isolus, who was already dead, pretty much, at the beginning of that fight, going right in their favor, as they're going to make it moves down towards mid lane.
The decision-making from Reynella needs a little bit of love. They did a brilliant job of shutting down Jinx in the early game, putting her into the dirt, but it wasn't enough. Catalyst is now online, 666, 500 gold bounty, 200 CS in their back pocket, ready to go. But the decision-making around the Baron was really odd, because it was clear that some members wanted to fight, some members wanted to stay on the objective. Now, the way you position yourself is dependent on the decision. For example, if you plan to peel off, you need to put something like the Nunu closer towards the river than the Baron itself, because that's the way of, okay, we're going for this fight here, therefore Nunu needs to have the snowball ready to rumble. The issue is that, Ashe was really close to the river entrance, so the Darius just flashed on and destroyed her before the fight even started, and there was no support for her. So split call coming out from Reynella. Yes, they got the Baron, but not a single member now has it, and the momentum is heavily swinging in Glenunga's favor.
Yeah, absolutely. The decision-making and just the overall teamfight positioning from Reynella has been lacking in these last fights. There needs to be a clear distinction between the front of the fight and the back of the fight. And Ray, GC, and Peanut and Pecan Nut cannot be at the front of the fight unless they are winning.
I'd argue even if you're winning the fight, they shouldn't be on the front of the... they shouldn't be near the front. Nunu, Orn, and Set should still be up there. Arguably, Set should maybe be nearest to the backside just to keep Noodle from diving on top of the Ash and deleting her. But that's neither here nor there. When your back line's on your front line, it doesn't help you. And now the scaling is done. Jinx, 4 items. Jinx is ahead of the Ash in terms of itemization at this point. The Castellan is building, has a needlessly large rod. Glenunga, they are online, and what was looking so bad because they had nothing in the early game, they had no pressure, they were losing their lanes, is now gotten to the point where Glenunga are in charge of this game.
Absolutely, and it's going to take like a almost clear-cut and precise initiation into a team fight. As you were saying, Reynella, they want to be the ones that start the fight. They want to be the ones that are putting things when they want to have them. And yeah, that's just exactly how it's going to have to be if they want to win this next fight. They need to be the ones that are in control, that initiate the fight, and that get what they want. Now, we're both top lane players.
Yes.
Why does Orn have 2 upgrades that he hasn't given out?
Well, you look at the items. No, Ash just picked up her Infinity Edge, so I can validate that one. Nunu hasn't bought an item that can be upgraded, so that's on Nunu. Neither has the Set. So, Set's building it now. He's building towards his Sunfire Cape, which of course he gets upgraded into the Forge Fire Cape. But the biggest concern should be the fact that Reynella was passive. They got themselves the early lead by bullying out Catalyst's Jinx in the bottom lane. The issue is that once they did that, they went top lane. They took out the top lane. They've never actually dealt with the problem of Noodle. So Noodle was left to scale on his own, which now means this Castellan is about to pick up his death cap not very far from now. And I don't think I need to explain to you what happens when the Castellan picks up his death cap. Jinx, late game hypercarry, is about to pick up what I assume is going to be a Bloodthirster. Although she could actually go for a Blade of the Ruin King, that wouldn't be disastrous, despite the fact that she also has a Lord Dominic's Regard. So you shut down Jinx, you messed up 2 team fights, you shut down Work is now irrelevant, and the champion you left on your own, the Castellan, is now fully online. So Reynella has to start catching people out of position, because at this point, team fights aren't working out in your favor.
I mean, absolutely. And like just looking at the overall itemization coming out from Reynella, it's okay, they're building the right items, sure. But at the same time, are they building the right items in the right order? Because obviously, yes, so Sunfire and Iceborne, you know, considering it's a 3 AD matchup, it's a decent layout. However, when the only MR item that an Orn has is a Gargoyle Stone Plate against a Castellan, you start to wonder.
You do, but then you also realize why would the Castellan spend his time killing the Orn, who has little MR, when you can look at the likes of the Ash, for example, who is a hell of a lot easier to delete, like we're probably just about to watch.
Well, this could be the best catch-out scenario. The Castellan is on his own. It's on the ultimate. He's going to go through the Rift Walk, just casually getting himself out of one of the worst situations he could have found himself in. Call of the Forge God, not connecting onto the Castellan as he exits out of the Zhonya's. Perhaps a misplay on Cool Guy's behalf. Baron now on the table at 36 minutes, almost 37 minutes, as is the Dragon. It's been almost three Dragons now, and Reynella still have yet to get their Dragon Soul.
Yeah, and that's because they lost control of the fights. They lost the fight in the top half jungle. You lost the fight in the bottom half because you didn't push your advantage hard enough. Yes, you had an early game because let's look at when you look at Glenunga's composition, their early game was, well, pretty bad. But you got an early lead, but then you didn't do anything with it. You took a couple scrappy fights that were unnecessary. You've had a miscoordinated fight around the Baron buff that lost you your momentum lead and got Jinx back into relevancy, and then you didn't account for the fact that Jinx is now relevant and basically lost the follow-up fight even if you won it. So teams are just a little bit lost when it comes to Reynella's targeting. Now, on the bright side, they at least had to set up a Baron, but this Malzahar needs to hit a priority target.
Yeah, it looks like they want to just try and get the Ocean Soul under their belt as soon as possible. But of course, here comes Glenunga to counteract that and apply pressure.
Oh boy. I recognize his position. Look at Cassidy.
This is a very familiar situation. Of course, it's starting very differently with Cool Guy getting locked down, but of course, they're right on top of Catalyst, though, which is exactly where they want to be. They want to keep that Jinx down, and they will take him down, but in the meantime, that's the backline getting destroyed by Big Noodle Man and Chalky Milk, and they are going to continue to rinse through the rest of Reynella, East College, and my goodness, that's going to be 3 back-to-back-to-back Ocean Drakes, maybe even Baron, going in the favor of Glenunga. My goodness.
Okay, I'm trying to find a nice way to word what I'm about to word. You have 3 tanks and 2 damage dealers. Do not leave your damage dealers alone against an assassin.
Yeah.
You can't work that any other way. And then they're going to win because Caston's level 18. He's got his death count and there's no Nexus turret.
Absolutely, they don't even need to go for the objectives. They win the game, an absolute turnaround from the early game, behind in objectives, not behind in towers because they took Nexus towers, regardless, from a position so far behind that winning was almost baffleable. They pull it off. Glenunga, my goodness, what a performance.
I'm partly broken for what I witnessed. I witnessed a team composition from Glenunga that does very little early game. The Kayn wasn't transformed at 21 minutes. The Jinx was like 0-5, I believe, from just the early game alone and getting bullied to all hell and back. The Darius wasn't able to win lane, but Cassidy was left alone. And I saw this team that had no right to win the early game and lost the early game, had no right to win the mid game, discount won the mid game, and then managed to scale into the late game because they weren't punished hard enough for picking a composition that does nothing in the early game and didn't play it through the early game, somehow win the game. That is turtling in its finest fashion. And I'm amazed they managed to pull that off.
Yeah, I mean, throughout the entirety of the first 20 minutes of the game, within the first 20 minutes of the game, you would not expect that Glenunga would be able to come back because of the sheer amount of individual leads that Reynella had. Like they had the perfect beefy frontline to peel for an Ashe who already has self-peel against a champion like a Darius who, when met with hard lockdown crowd control, should in no way, shape or form be able to get onto the backline.
No.
Yet he did.
Yeah, but he did.
Yeah.
Oh my lord, that series was something I'm legitimately going to go rewatch that series again at some point because that was amazing how Glenunga drafted to lose early game, lost early game, pretty much, and then managed to scale on the basis of 2 team fights, effectively, that let them get back into relevancy. So a really good game of Glenunga to end up winning, even if some of the things, what they pulled off, wasn't the cleanest. I'm not gonna sprout lies here. But at the end of the day, that will be Glenunga winning, and Reynella, a very nice performance, but just weren't able to keep up.
Absolutely. Perhaps some things to look forward to and improve. On behalf of Reynella, I'm eager to see how they look to approach situations like this in the future. Of course, that is going to be all of the broadcasts for today of week 4 for the Meta High School esports. I have been Adge, joined here by Midnight. Midnight, did you have any sending regards? Want to thank our sponsors? Or?
Yeah, but I say thanks, of course, to our sponsors. We have Acer Intel, Optus, Harvey Norman, Torrens University, of course, Meta itself. That's where we are.